You ever look out your window and wonder who's living right next door? I mean, really wonder.
Not just their name or what car they drive, but what secrets they're hiding behind those curtains.
I did.
And I wish I hadn't. My name's Alex, and this is the story of how I fell in love with the one person I was never supposed to want, my neighbor, Lila. It wasn't just that she was older, or that she was married. It was the way her eyes held a story she'd never tell, and how every glance from her felt like a dare to ruin my life.
It started innocently enough. A nod across the fence.
A wave when I grabbed my mail. But then came the late-night moments, her shadow in the window, the soft hum of her voice through the walls. I'd lie awake, imagining what it'd be like to know her, really know her. She was close enough to touch, but a million miles away.
Forbidden. Dangerous. And that danger? It pulled me in like nothing else ever had.
I didn't just want her, I needed to know why she felt so wrong and so right at the same time. Every night, I'd find myself staring at her house, the glow of her porch light like a beacon. I'd tell myself I was just curious, just bored.
But deep down, I knew it was more.
There was something about her that made my chest tight, like I was holding my breath waiting for something to break.
And then it did. One night, I saw something through her window I wasn't supposed to see.
Something that made my heart race and my stomach twist.
It wasn't just her marriage I was stepping into, it was a web of lies that could destroy everything. My family. Her life. Our quiet little street. And yet, I couldn't stop.
I loved her in secret, and it changed my life forever.
Want to know how far I fell? Stick around, because this story isn't what you think. It's not a love story with a neat little bow. It's messy, raw, and it'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the people next door. Let me take you back to where it all began, to a summer that feels like a lifetime ago.
I was 24, fresh out of college, stuck in a dead-end job delivering pizzas in a sleepy suburban neighborhood in Ohio.
Willow Creek was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, or so I thought. The houses were close together, the lawns manicured, the lives predictable. I hated it.
I felt like I was drowning in routine, waiting for something, anything, to shake me awake. My days were a blur of greasy pizza boxes, half-hearted job applications, and nights spent scrolling through my phone, dreaming of a life that felt bigger than this cul-de-sac. My parents' house, where I was still living, was a time capsule of my childhood, same creaky stairs, same faded curtains, same suffocating sense that I was going nowhere. My dad was always out with his golf buddies, my mom lost in her book club dramas, and I was just there.
Invisible, restless, waiting for a spark. Then Lila moved in next door.
She was in her late 30s, with dark hair that fell in loose waves and eyes that seemed to see right through you. She wasn't loud or flashy like the other neighbors, who'd blast music at barbecues or gossip over picket fences. She was quiet, almost ghostly, slipping in and out of her house like she didn't want to be noticed. Her husband, Mark, was older, maybe 50, and he was gone a lot. Business trips, he said, with a smile that never reached his eyes. I barely saw him, but when I did, he had this cold, clipped way of talking, like he was always one step away from snapping.
I didn't like him.
Not because of anything he did, not yet, but because of the way Lila's shoulders tensed when his car pulled into the driveway.
Lila, though, she was different.
The first time we spoke, I was mowing the lawn, sweat dripping down my face, cursing the ancient mower that kept stalling. She leaned over the fence with a glass of lemonade, her fingers wrapped around it like it was a peace offering. "You look like you need this," she said, her voice soft but with this edge, like she was testing me. I took the glass, my fingers brushing hers for half a second, and I swear my heart stopped.
It wasn't just attraction. It was like she saw me, the real me, not the kid everyone else ignored.
Her smile was small, almost sad, and it made me want to know everything about her.
Over the next few weeks, we started talking more.
Small stuff at first. She'd ask about my job, my plans, what I wanted out of life. I'd ask about her garden, her favorite books, the little things that made her light up.
But there was always this tension. Like we were both saying one thing but meaning something else.
I'd catch her watching me from her porch, her expression unreadable, and I'd wonder what she was thinking.
Was she lonely? Was she trapped? Or was I just projecting my own mess onto her? My parents didn't notice a thing. They were too busy with their own lives, too wrapped up in their routines to see the way I'd linger by the window, hoping for a glimpse of her. But I noticed everything about Lila. The way she'd linger by her mailbox, glancing my way. The way her laugh felt like a secret meant just for me. The way she'd go quiet, her eyes distant, when Mark's car pulled in. I started to hate him, not because he was cruel, at least, not that I could see, but because he had her. And I didn't. I knew it was wrong. She was married. She was older. She was my neighbor, for God's sake. Every rational part of me screamed to back off, to let it go. But every time I tried to pull back, something pulled me closer. A smile. A whispered goodnight. A moment when our eyes locked a little too long. I told myself I was imagining it, that she was just being friendly, that I was reading too much into the way her hand lingered on mine when she passed me a tool in the garden. But deep down, I knew better. There was something between us, something unspoken, something dangerous. And then came the night that changed everything, the night I realized I wasn't just falling for her, I was falling into something I might not come back from. It was a Thursday, past midnight, the kind of humid summer night that makes your skin stick to your sheets. I couldn't sleep. My room was too hot, my thoughts too loud, all tangled up with images of Lila, her smile, her voice, the way she'd looked at me the day before, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. I got up, went to my window, and that's when I saw her. Lila, standing in her backyard, alone, staring at the stars. She was in a thin white dress, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding something together, like she might break if she let go. I don't know why, but I grabbed my jacket and slipped outside. I told myself I just wanted to check on her, to make sure she was okay. But that was a lie. I wanted to be near her, to feel that pull, to see if she felt it too. Couldn't sleep either? I said, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't startle her. She didn't jump, didn't turn. She just nodded, like she'd been expecting me. Some nights, the quiet's too loud, she said. Her voice was different that night, raw, like she'd been crying. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume, a faint mix of jasmine and something darker, like rain. That's when I saw it, a faint bruise on her wrist, purple against her pale skin. My stomach twisted, a sick feeling spreading through me. Lila, I said, my voice barely steady, are you okay? She looked at me then, and her eyes were like a storm, wild, haunted, full of things she couldn't say. You shouldn't be here, Alex, she whispered. But she didn't move away. We stood there, inches apart, the air between us electric, heavy with everything we weren't saying. I wanted to ask about the bruise, about Mark, about the weight she carried in her eyes. But before I could, she reached out and touched my hand. Just for a second. Just long enough to make my heart race, to make the world tilt. Go home, she said, but her voice was pleading, like she didn't mean it, like she wanted me to stay. I didn't go home. I couldn't. That night was the start of something reckless, something that would pull us both under. Over the next few weeks, our late-night talks became a ritual. Always in the shadows, always in whispers, always hidden from the world. We'd meet in her backyard, or sometimes in the narrow strip of trees between our houses, where no one could see. She'd tell me things, small things, at first, like how she used to paint but hadn't touched a brush in years, how she felt invisible sometimes, like she was just playing a role in someone else's life. I told her things too, how I felt stuck, how I wanted more than this small-town life, how I didn't know who I was supposed to be. But we never talked about Mark. Not directly. It was like we both knew crossing that line would make this real, would turn our stolen moments into something we couldn't take back. And yet, every conversation, every glance, felt like we were inching closer to that line, daring each other to step over it. Then one night, she let it slip. We were sitting on her porch, hidden by the dark, the crickets loud enough to drown out our whispers. He's not who you think he is, she said, her voice barely audible, her eyes fixed on the ground. Who is he, then? I asked, my heart pounding. She shook her head, her hands trembling in her lap. You don't want to know, Alex. You really don't. But I did. God help me, I did. I needed to know what made her flinch when his name came up, what made her check her locks twice every night, what made her look at me like I was her only way out and her biggest mistake. The next day, I started noticing things I hadn't before. A car I didn't recognize parked outside her house, idling for too long before driving off. A man, not Mark, leaving her driveway at odd hours, his face hidden under a baseball cap. Packages delivered to her door that she hid before Mark got home, tucking them under the porch or behind a bush. I told myself it was nothing, that I was paranoid, that I was seeing things because I was too wrapped up in her. But then I saw it. Through her living room window, late at night, when I shouldn't have been looking. Mark, yelling, his face red, his hands clenched. Lila, shrinking back, her arms crossed like she was shielding herself. And something else, a stack of cash on the table, more than I'd ever seen in my life, bundled in neat stacks like something out of a movie. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd be sick. What was I getting myself into? I confronted her the next night, my voice shaking with fear and anger and something I didn't want to name. Lila, what's going on? The money, the bruise, the guy in the car, what's he doing to you? We were in the shed behind her house, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and gasoline. She looked at me like I'd just stepped on a landmine, her eyes wide, her breath uneven. You need to stop, Alex, she said, her voice shaking. You don't know what you're asking. But I couldn't stop. I was in too deep. I loved her, not just the idea of her, but the real her. The scared, broken, beautiful her. And I'd do anything to protect her. That's when she told me the truth, or at least part of it. Mark wasn't just a businessman. He was involved in something illegal, something big. Drugs, money laundering, she wasn't sure how deep it went. She'd found out a year ago, after they moved to Willow Creek. He'd threatened her, told her she'd lose everything, her life, her freedom, if she tried to leave. She was trapped, a prisoner in her own house, her own marriage. And I was the only one who knew. But knowing came with a price. Because now, I wasn't just in love with my neighbor. I was in the middle of something that could get us both killed. And the worst part? I didn't care. Not as long as I could save her. The weeks that followed were a blur of fear and longing, a tightrope walk between love and danger. Lila and I were careful, too careful. No more late-night talks in the open, or a nosy neighbor might see. We'd meet in secret, in the shed behind her house, or in my car parked a few streets away, the windows fogged up from our breath. Every moment with her felt stolen, precious, dangerous. I'd hold her hand, trace the lines of her palm with my thumb, and try to pretend we were just two people falling in love. But we weren't. We were a ticking time bomb, and we both knew it. She told me more, piece by piece, like she was testing how much I could handle. Mark was working with some bad people, men who came and went in the dead of night, their voices low and urgent through the walls. She'd overheard things she wasn't supposed to, seen things she couldn't unsee, briefcases full of cash, hushed arguments about shipments, a gun tucked into Mark's waistband when he thought she wasn't looking. He thinks I'm too scared to leave, she said one night, her head resting on my shoulder, her voice so soft I could barely hear it. And maybe I am. But not because of him. Because of what he'd do to you. My heart sank, a cold weight settling in my chest. I hadn't thought about that, how my feelings for her could put us both in danger, how my need to be near her could be the thing that got us caught. But I couldn't pull away. I was too far gone, too addicted to the way she made me feel alive, needed, like I was more than just a kid stuck in a dead-end life. I started digging, because I had to know more, because I had to find a way to get her out. I don't know what possessed me, maybe stupidity, maybe love, maybe both. I'd watch Mark's house from my window, take notes on the cars that came and went, the faces I didn't recognize. I even followed one of the guys once, to a warehouse on the edge of town, my heart pounding as I hid behind a dumpster, watching men load crates into a van. It was stupid, reckless, dangerous. But I needed to know what I was up against. I needed to save her. The more I learned, the worse it got. Mark wasn't just a cog in the machine, he was running it. Lila was his cover, his perfect suburban wife, the face he showed the world to keep his secrets safe. If she left, his whole operation could crumble,
and he'd do anything to stop that from happening.
Anything. The tension between us grew unbearable, a tight knot of fear and desire.
Every touch, every whispered word, felt like it could be our last. One night, in the shed, she kissed me. It wasn't soft or sweet, it was desperate, hungry, like she was drowning and I was air. Her hands were in my hair, her breath hot against my skin, and for a moment, the world was just us. "We can't keep doing this," she said, tears streaming down her face.
"But I don't know how to stop." Neither did I.
I was addicted to her, to the thrill of her, to the danger of us. I wanted to tell her I loved her, to promise I'd get her out, but the words stuck in my throat, choked by the fear of what came next. Then came the night everything fell apart. I was in my room, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the ache in my chest, when I heard a scream. Lila's scream, sharp and terrified, cutting through the quiet of the night. I ran outside, heart pounding, my bare feet slipping on the dew-soaked grass. I saw her in the backyard, Mark looming over her, his shadow swallowing hers. He was holding something, a gun, glinting faintly in the moonlight. My blood went cold, my vision narrowing to a single point.
I didn't think. I just acted.
I climbed the fence, grabbed a shovel from the shed, and ran toward them, my pulse roaring in my ears.
"Get away from her!"
I shouted, my voice raw, desperate. Mark turned, his face a mask of rage, and that's when I saw it, the truth in his eyes.
He knew.
He knew about us, about the late-night talks, the stolen moments, the way I looked at his wife. What happened next was chaos, a blur of fear and adrenaline. Lila begged me to leave, her voice breaking, her hands grabbing at my shirt. Mark lunged at me, his fists clenched, his eyes wild. I swung the shovel, not to hit him, just to scare him, to make him back off.
It was enough.
He stumbled back, cursing, spitting words I couldn't make out. He got in his car and drove away, tires screeching, leaving Lila trembling in the grass. She was shaking, crying, her face buried in her hands. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, her voice barely audible.
"You've made everything worse. He'll come for you now, Alex. You have to go." But I couldn't leave her. Not now. Not ever.
I dropped to my knees beside her, my hands hovering, wanting to hold her but afraid to make it real. "I'm not leaving you," I said, my voice cracking.
"I can't."
She looked at me then, her eyes full of pain, fear, and something else, something that broke my heart.
"You don't understand," she whispered. "You can't save me." And in that moment, I knew she was right. But I didn't want to believe it.
I wish I could tell you we ran away together, that love conquered all, that we found a way to escape the darkness closing in.
But life isn't a movie, and love doesn't always win. Lila disappeared the next day. No note, no goodbye, no trace.
Her house was empty, the car gone, the porch light dark for the first time in months. I stood in her driveway, staring at the blank windows, my chest hollow, my hands shaking. I asked around, knocked on doors, but no one knew anything, or they wouldn't say.
Mrs. Callahan, the nosy widow across the street, just shook her head and muttered about bad news.
The police came, asked questions, poked around the empty house, but it was like Lila had never existed.
Mark was gone too, vanished into the same void.
The neighborhood whispered to drugs, money, a bad marriage, a woman who'd always been trouble.
But I knew the truth.
She'd left to protect me, to keep me out of the crosshairs of whatever Mark was tangled up in. I told myself she was safe, that she'd found a way out, but it didn't ease the ache, the gnawing sense that I'd lost something I'd never get back.
Months later, I got a letter, slipped under my door in the middle of the night. No return address, just her handwriting, elegant and unmistakable. "I'm safe," it said. "But you can't find me. Don't try.
I loved you, Alex, but some loves are too dangerous to keep." I read it 100 times, searching for a clue, a hint, anything to tell me where she was, who she was with, if she was really okay. But there was nothing, just those words, sharp as a knife, cutting me open every time I read them. I wanted to believe she was free, that she'd escaped Mark and his world, but the not knowing ate at me. Every creak of the house, every strange car on the street, made me think of her, of him, of the danger we'd brushed up against.
Here's the twist, though, the thing I still can't wrap my head around. Last week, I saw her in a coffee shop, across the street, in a town an hour away. She was with someone, a man, not Mark, someone with kind eyes and a laugh that made her smile in a way I'd never seen. She looked different, lighter, freer, her hair shorter, her shoulders relaxed. Our eyes met, just for a second, and my heart stopped. I wanted to run to her, to ask her everything, to tell her I'd never stopped thinking about her. But she turned away, her hand resting on the man's arm, and I knew she'd moved on. She'd left me behind, not because she didn't care, but because she had to. I didn't follow her. I wanted to, God, I wanted to, more than I've ever wanted anything. But I knew she was right. Some loves destroy you if you hold on too tight. So I let her go, or at least I'm trying to. I still see her in every shadow, hear her in every quiet moment. Willow Creek isn't the same without her. I'm not the same. So, what about you? Have you ever had a crush on a neighbor, someone you knew you shouldn't want, someone who changed you in ways you can't explain? Spill the tea in the comments, I read every one, and I need to know I'm not alone in this. And if this story hit you hard, if it made your heart ache or your mind race, share it with someone who loves a good twist, someone who gets what it's like to want something you can't have. Hit that like button if you're still thinking about Lila, about what might have been, about the secrets we all carry. And subscribe, because trust me, I've got more stories where this came from, stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about love, danger, and the people next door. Until next time, keep your eyes on the windows. You never know who's watching back. Script length, 10-500 words, approximately 21 minutes at standard narration pace, format, storytelling, emotional monologue with suspenseful diary-style structure, micro-niche overlap, aligns with mysterious stranger confessions and small-town secret stories for viewers who crave emotional depth and forbidden romance. Notes on expansion, extended the hook by adding more sensory details and internal conflict to deepen the emotional pull and curiosity. Expanded the intro/setup with more context about Alex's life and the neighborhood to build empathy and set the stakes. Lengthened the main conflict by detailing more interactions with Lila and adding layers to the mystery of Mark's activities. Deepened the build-up with additional scenes of secrecy, tension, and Alex's growing obsession, plus more neighborhood suspicion to heighten suspense. Extended the ending with more reflection on Alex's lingering pain and the twist's impact, maintaining emotional ambiguity. Kept the tone raw, introspective, and suspenseful, with a slow burn pace to match the audience's preference for emotionally complex narratives. Let me know if you'd like further tweaks, a different topic, or another script.